Hello, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and I have my good friend and fellow hacker Kilian here to help us go through the security news of the week.
Hello, thank you for having me. Great to be back again. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so if you can hear the roar of the air conditioner behind me, am in Los Angeles, and I am actually not here for a martial arts competition. This is just so
Ooh.
people don't mug me. It's my favorite shirt in the world. I am here to begin preparing for the DEF CON conference and basically get ready for the week-long sprint that is going to be at DEF CON and Black Hat. So if you are going to be at Black Hat, make sure to stop by the Varonis booth because both Kilian and I are going to be there. We're also, Kilian, going to have some gift cards. So when we are there, we're probably going to be shooting a quick little video segment where we ask people like quick hacker questions. But don't worry, if you get it like really, really wrong, like we're not going to roast you. But if you get it right, then I believe we're going to be able to give away some gift cards. So yeah, if you want to swing by the Black Hat booth and show off your hacker knowledge, Kilian and I will be there giving out some gift cards. So it's gonna be really cool. And also,
Yeah.
Kilian, did you get a load of the CTF that's happening at the Varonis booth? Were you on that call?
I was. Are you talking about the capture the flag? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not in charge, but like that's my area of the booth to work. So I'm pretty excited to see it. I got a preview of the cheat sheet the other day, so I need to spend some time going through it myself just to make sure that I get to experience it firsthand. I know a lot of people are going to be coming up and doing it, and I don't want to be jealous when they get all the fun.
Yeah, it honestly looks really cool. So, all right. So if you're not aware of what Varonis is focused on, we're really working on like Salesforce. Like that's one of the big things that we're working with because Salesforce is huge. So many companies use it. It's like used for like customer support portals and like all of this other stuff that like most major companies have. So we've had our researchers focus on that for a while, and they found all these like really like kind of trivial to exploit flaws or misconfigurations, or sometimes just straight up bugs in Salesforce. And we've done some research releases. Sometimes Salesforce is like, okay, let us fix this. Please don't talk about this that much. But we finally get to talk about some of it. So the CTF is going to be a real life kind of like example of how you would get into all the sensitive data in the real world when it comes to like Salesforce sites. So we're going to have like a kind of a mocked up Salesforce instance, I believe, like set up in a way that's like vulnerable, misconfigured, like in ways that we see like all the time. So our researchers actually made what they've seen in the field. They've like created a real example of what they've detected over and over and over. And it's going to be really cool. So you'll get to come up, and the first one is like a gimme. And like Kilian, I'm thinking even maybe you and I can play it, like and do like a stream and show what the first of the 3 flags looks like, because basically there's instructions for it and it's not that hard. And you can play it with Burp Suite or OWASP Zap. We're gonna have, I think, a couple laptops set up in the booth. And there's gonna be like prizes and stuff like for if you get the final flag. But the idea is like basically anybody could just use one of these tools to like grab all this interesting information from like a Salesforce instance. So definitely stop by the Black Hat booth. It's going to be cool. And if you've ever wondered like if Salesforce hacking is interesting, it is. And if you've ever wondered if it's hard, it's not. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys come by the Black Hat booth and play the cool CTF game. I always really like it when we get the technical people to come out and like make something that's like for other hackers. So even if you're just a beginner, don't worry about it. Like as I said, the first one of the flags is going to be like fully explained how to do it, and even a baby beginner could do it. So don't worry, it's not going to be too hard. So yeah, if you are there, then please make sure to stop by the booth. And to whoever is leaving comments in the chat, please stop trying to turn our chat into a botnet or a C2 server. I don't want it. Just kidding. But anyway, so yes, I am fully packed up for DEF CON. As you can see, I have packed my nuggets and I'm ready to go. Unfortunately, this one on the right put us over the weight limit, so he had to stay at home. But all the Nuggets on the other side are good to go and will be at DEF CON. So I am going to be, as I said, both at Black Hat and DEF CON. And if you want to run into me, then swing by the Hacker Warehouse booth at DEF CON and swing by the Varonis booth at Black Hat. So yeah, Kilian, am I going to get to tempt you to come out to DEF CON this year?
You know what? I did not book additional nights for DEF CON. Every year we talk about this, Kody, and every year I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to do it next year. And then by the time it rolls around, it's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
Well, man, yeah, I am lazy, so I ended up booking my accommodations very recently, and I got in a good amount of trouble. I had to have like 2 or 3 meetings about like why I booked it so late, but I got it approved. So my struggle was I thought that I was gonna have to walk a mile and a half in 102-degree weather. So the fact that I don't, I only have to walk 1 block in 102
That's
degrees.
not bad.
It's not bad, yeah. Like especially booking like this late and like, and all the different hotels that are directly affiliated with the conference are sold out. However, Kilian, I'm just gonna say Airbnb. You just stay somewhere a little bit with like the first time I went to DEF CON, I stayed at an Airbnb and it was just like this old lady that was in silk pajamas all day, like walking around the house, and it was like a little weird, but you know, it worked out. It worked out. So you know, it's definitely going to be worth it this year. I think there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff there. So hopefully I can lure Kilian out there and check out all the magic that makes DEF CON more fun. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just be trying to find ways that I can take ideas that I find at DEF CON and bring them back and like make Varonis like a little bit more cool, you know?
That'd be fun. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, silk pajamas, Kody. Maybe that's your like new move. Like you learn from the old lady at the Airbnb, and that's gonna be like your thing. I don't know. I'm just saying, could be pretty baller.
I definitely have some outfits that are only for DEF CON. I have a shirt that I found at a Goodwill, and I think it was in like Rachel, Nevada or something. It was actually it's a thrift store there, and it is like I never get to wear that shirt. I'm very excited. There's only a couple places. I have my U.S. Secret Service shirt, and then I have like a couple other shirts I've got from Goodwill that I think are going to be a big hit at the conference. So I'm definitely gearing up for it.
Oh man, I'm gonna miss it. Now I'm bummed, but next year.
Next year, I'm sure there will be pictures. All right. So another thing that I get to debut at the conference is I spent a good amount of time and energy developing these new soldering kits that we had our kids at the camp put together and then wear as badges. So if you're looking for a cool electronic badge at DEF CON, I think we're gonna be selling these for like $25. They're like easy to solder together, and my hands are raw from putting together kits. So there's a lot of different places you can go to solder stuff, like the Soldering Skills Village. And yeah, we're gonna have a lot of cool stuff, including these matrices. So this is actually a picture of the badge from behind. You can tune the eyes to any color, and I tuned them green, and this particular badge is green, so it shines through the badge, and you can see all the traces. And you can also see that this was made by our friend Angelina. So yeah, super, super cool. Very much looking forward to DEF CON. We will hopefully see a lot of you there. And then this was awesome. So I was quoted in an article talking about hidden cameras. So all right, I'm gonna bring the chat back. Let's see if it can behave itself. Not the people in the chat. Literally, just our chat is messed up and keeps just showing like a black bar. So I just keep getting rid of it. But oh well. All right. So check the air freshener was my quote. This isn't the quote I was hoping they would take. They actually cut out like some very funny quotes I made about like who might be using these. Apparently, it was a little bit too edgy for them. But yeah, so of the things they chose to keep, it was pretty funny to see me repeatedly quoted as Kody Kinzie, which makes me sound more German than Irish, if I had to say. So yeah, a little bit of an unusual name there. I haven't seen myself titled that way, but it's still very nice to be quoted here. Okay, so what did I say? What was the news that I was talking about? Well, I was talking about how like cameras have gotten smaller and smaller, and now we have things like the ESP32 camera for $5, which has like facial recognition. And I also talked a little bit about how I would spot them. So like if I see something that's plugged in and pointed at an interesting area, like an alarm clock that's like like pitch back and like pointed right at a bed, or like like a air freshener that's pointing directly towards like a changing area.
Right.
Those are red flags because a lot of these cheap cameras do require being plugged in, or they'll need to have their battery changed pretty frequently. So anything that's plugged in and like a light bulb counts as plugged in, all of those sorts of things deserve scrutiny. Like some of the some of the cameras I've seen are just like there's an LED light bulb and then in the center there's like a little lens, and it's like if you're looking for cameras
Right.
in light bulbs, then you're going to see it. But most people are not. They don't like to stare
Right.
directly into a bright light to like try to examine whether or not there's a camera hidden in the very center. So there's a lot of different things that can be turned
Mhm.
into cameras. Um, so I talked a little bit about how you can identify them. So I talked about like scanning the network. And this is actually interesting because as soon as I attempted to replicate this, I encountered this warning. So my favorite network scanner is called Fake
Mm.
Network Scanner. They hit you with a lot of ads, and they've never directly talked to me, but like they've always been a very good way to scan a local network. Super useful app. Hello, James. So it appears that Android is now about to suffer the same limitation that iPhones have, which is
Mm.
basically you are not able to see the MAC address of devices on the same network as you. This is devastating because for anybody who's doing network profiling or wants to be able to identify a device on their own network, like that means that they can't do that anymore. Like
Yeah.
there's some identifiers you can pull, but like really like the most straightforward scan or the most straightforward lookup is to see what the device manufacturer is and
Yep.
figure it out. So I believe that this is related to device fingerprinting, where now they're really starting to cut down on device fingerprinting, where an app will use details, like maybe the devices on the network it's connected to build a fingerprint for and get around tracking restrictions. It's like a pretty open secret that if you want to track
Yeah.
people, you can use other identifiers to start tagging them rather than explicitly identifying their phone. So I believe that Google's getting very serious about this and starting to take them down. But yeah, so actually, this piece of advice for finding like a hidden camera may not actually be valid anymore because
Right.
iPhones already suffered this restriction, and now Android devices might also not be able to scan for like MAC addresses.
Yeah.
And for a privacy perspective, do I want like random applications doing this? Like, no, I don't. Like that's
Right.
that doesn't sound like a good idea at all. But yeah, it really does seem like the ability to use a phone to do networking stuff as a hacker is really getting like harder and harder,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. Um, so, all right, what else did I say? You can use the red hidden LED camera detector, which does a
Mhm.
great job of identifying glass lenses and objects. But so yes, we actually did a video about this, and the one of the most reliable ways of finding one of the cameras we hid was to look for the reflection on glass
Yep.
lenses, and that was pretty reliable. However, that doesn't always go right. So there was a case on Twitter, like maybe a year or two ago, where there
Mhm.
was this huge online debate where a woman checked into an Airbnb and then identified a fire sprinkler using this technique. And she was
Yeah.
just like, there's a lens in here. This is crazy. And then a bunch of people like got on them and was like, it's not even possible for that to be a camera. And then I entered the fray and was just like, here's an AliExpress like listing
Right.
for a hidden camera that goes into a sprinkler. It was like, I don't know if it is or isn't, but they do
Right.
exist and it is a legitimate concern. So the cops came, and it was not actually like a camera. It was a glass element that's inside the sprinkler, and it
Right.
reacts like a lens because we're basically just looking for glass with this test.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an interesting case where it didn't end up actually being something, but it concerned everyone because there
Right.
were legitimate devices like hidden cameras that looked like that.
Mhm.
But in this case, our identification technique had a false positive, and it caused a big stir. So yeah, that's kind of the summary of this Wi-Fi, or sorry, the camera finding article. It was a good interview. I enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and in spite of getting my name wrong, it's still this is the kind of article that when it goes out, like my dentist or like my like doctor, goes, were you like quoted in like an article? And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah. They're like, oh my god, I just read it. So yeah, that was very funny.
I mean, it's big news. I think maybe it was just a few weeks ago. This happens all the time, though. Like, I think a lady found it was a smoke detector in an Airbnb that had lenses in it, and I think the story the police got involved and they went over there and they claimed that it wasn't, but they found like somebody else had a safe full of these things, and I forget how she detected it. Maybe it was either a reflection or there was like two smoke detectors in the room or something like odd.
Common sense.
Right. But I mean, it's something that I wish that we didn't have to be careful about, but we do. It happens more often than you think.
Yeah, and like I was kind of trying to give my perspective as like a maker, and I was like, well, these
Right.
modules that you would need to do that like are pretty standalone. You just connect them to
Yeah.
power, and they have an SD card for recording, and they even have facial recognition.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
there's a bigger and bigger technical burden as you want to like customize it or like do some crazy
Sure.
with it. But just buying one off the internet, buying the little power module to like plug something into, and then
Right.
sticking it inside something that's already plugged into power, like
Hmm.
like it would not be hard. It's a
Yeah.
very low bar to entry. So, all right, James says there's still root. Yeah, man, trying to root an Android device is annoying, but especially I would never root my own personal Android device, and it's one of
No.
those like things that people make the argument for like carrying a gun. It's just like it's the best gun to have in a gunfight is the one you have with you, right? So like if you're gonna show up to like a place and you're gonna do a little bit of pen testing, you're gonna like scope something out. Most of the time, you're just gonna have your smartphone, and it's gonna be your primary smartphone that you're using for all your regular stuff. So if you feel confident, like rooting your primary smartphone that you're using for all your stuff to be able to like do better like network scans, like that is such an unnecessary compromise in my opinion. Like you shouldn't have to do that in order to just like do a network scan and identify like something vulnerable with the device you'll have with you all the time, because that's the point. It's like, if you're going to be doing this sort of testing, you're probably going to be doing it with whatever you have with you, and you virtually always have your phone. So that's why,
Yeah.
like, having a good mobile experience for like network scanning and doing like not hacking stuff, but even just IT stuff, like that that is of tremendous value. And if that's impacted by these new security restrictions that make it harder to scan, like that's really going to suck for us, like both
Yeah.
IT people and hackers. Yeah, I don't want to root my phone either. I just like I know that it causes all these sorts of like pieces of malware to just be able to go crazy.
Hmm.
Like it allows them to have much more access to your device and do much more damage. And if you do root your phone, you're putting yourself, substantially at risk. So I think rooting your phone is cool. I would just never do it on my primary device because it's just not worth the trade off for me yet.
Yeah.
But if things like this keep happening, then I guess we'll see. All right. So last up, this is so cool. So Make It Hacken sent me this Blinky badge for the flipper, and you kind of assume that a lot of people are going to be bringing their flippers to DEF CON, if
Yeah.
not everyone. So this is something where we wanted to show off like some of the cool things you could do with the flipper that just basically turn it into like a Blinky badge. So this is the super duper flipper flooper.
Mm.
And it is basically just like a Blinky badge that has like kind of minimalist interface. Like this is the select button, this is the scroll button, like it's pretty, and then this is the power button. So there's not a lot really going on here. And all you need to do in order to enable it is just enable the 5 volt on GPIO on a flipper and slap on googly eyes. Um, Googly eyes are a huge thing at DEF CON. In fact, I'm gonna make a note to myself right now that I need to purchase googly eyes. But they're gonna be on everything at the entire conference. They're kind of like a non-destructive like vandalism thing. So anytime there's a sign anywhere within a couple like blocks of the camp of the conference, like you will see googly eyes slapped on virtually every single face. All right, note made. I will purchase googly eyes. You won't catch me at DEF CON lacking on the googly eyes. So anyway, if you want to grab one of these, they are available on Make It Hacken's Tindy store. I just think it's really pretty and cool to be able to
Hmm.
like slap something on this and make it a Blinky badge. So you're going to see a lot more of these badges, including a badge that I have been working on. So yeah, we'll see you at the Hacker Warehouse booth at DEF CON. All right, so let's get into the news. There's a lot of it, and we are going to cover it. So first up, good transition. A lot of people want a Flipper Zero, and they're willing to
Hmm.
do some potentially sketchy stuff for it.
Mm.
Oh, look at that. In fact, someone in our chat also wants a Flipper. Well, guess what? Do I have an offer for you? If you give me trade offer, if you give me all of your personal information, I will maybe give you a chance at getting a Flipper Zero. That's essentially the promise that's going on at these, where some of the time people do seem to get a Flipper Zero, but
Hmm.
most of the time, they instead will just give you malware
Right.
or adware, or like in one case, a technical support scam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this is the kind of scam we're looking at. It starts like taking a survey and it asks you to like participate in various things or maybe like download a browser extension and like test it or whatever. And then boom, hit with the technical support scam. Uh, your system overloaded. Please tap to fix it. And also this is like an Android. Like what's going
Yeah.
on?
I,
Subscription
I love
failed.
I love the little square like character couldn't display. They're using something like in Unicode or whatever.
Yeah, there's like an emoji there that's not loading.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that is, of course, preying on people that are interested in the Flipper, and this is flipperzero.at.
Hmm.
Obviously, at this point, people are just registering flipperzero dot whatever and attempting to
Right.
ride the popularity of it. Um, it. Yeah, it's definitely something that is easy to do at this point because the company is still at a point like not able to just like take everything down. They're not able to like go after like everything. So as a result, there are some scam sites out there that are attempting to tell you that you're going to get a flipper for free. So please do not fall for this. I know you want a flipper, but it is not worth the headache here. So this is
Mhm.
actually different because, and it's kind of notable that like they're just like scamming you and like they're not even
Yeah.
promising you. They're just wasting your time. There were some other websites that were actually imitating both the flipper and a device that I make called the Nugget. So I just
Hmm.
like did a search for the Nugget on Google because I wanted to see how things were SEO optimized, and all of a sudden there was this like ad boosted website that was like third in line, like after my
Mhm.
own website and then GitHub. And it was like, what's this? And it was actually a completely fake cloned website that took all the information from like my web store and all the information from Flipper's web store and combined it into like a fake store that was purporting to sell both of these products. Um,
Interesting.
but it copied all of the information over. So like when you go to the about us section of this,
Yeah.
it was the about us section for Flipper. So they were talking about like creating it in like the first person. And it's just like, okay, well, obviously you're not Flipper Zero. You have like a
Right.
completely different domain. So like you probably should have changed that one a little bit. But yeah, it was just interesting to see a scam site
Mm.
targeted not just at Flipper Zero, but also my own like open source product.
Yeah.
And then have them actually promising to deliver the product, but in actual fact, like they just take your money and then just like at a
Right.
certain point, they just shut the site down and then create a new one. So
Yeah.
pretty wild time out there for people who are trying to buy these like tech products. Like I myself have seen it like creep up on the stuff that I'm trying to make, and then Flipper Zero obviously is becoming an increasingly juicy target for
Right.
that sort of thing. All right. Let's go to the next one. So, Google's making it easier to take down your information and explicit photos from search results. So, this is something that they've sort of kind of done. Like before, you've
Yeah.
been able to do things. Like, for example, I have a Google search that just searches for my name, and like if
Mhm.
there's like a new website mentioning my name, I get an email
Right.
digest about it, and it lets me know like if there's information about me out there. And usually like if I've gotten quoted in an article or something, like I know about it like by morning time,
Right.
which is cool. Like
Mhm.
one time a former friend wrote like a mean blog post about me. Um, and I like immediately got it and I was just like, hey, that was really rude. Like, why did you use my full name? And they're
Yeah.
like, how did you find that? Are you following my blog? I'm like, no, idiot. Like, I just got an email about it. Like, I'm not following your blog. But yeah, so there have been ways of like looking out for your name on the internet before, but this kind of takes it a step beyond that. This is something where you can
Yeah.
not only like put your personal information like your address, your phone number, stuff like that and monitor those, but also request that those things be taken down. So prior I think that my system was probably like one of the better ways of keeping on top of this before that, but now they're actually going to let you go to Google slash results about you and
Hmm.
start requesting for some of those things to be taken down. So this is designed to prevent against like doxing or other.
Yeah.
I'm hoping anyway. This is actually what I'm hoping. I hope that those awful websites that compile like things about people and then
Yep.
require you to pay them to take it down, that
Yep.
those people are the targets of this sort of thing. Where like if
Yeah.
like mugshots.com or something like compiled all this information about you and put it up and then is trying to charge people like $500
Mhm.
to take it down, like those sorts of like preying on obscure public data to build like
Right.
basically like a blackmail profile for people.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be able to get employment, they're not going to be able to be like considered for things because like they've deliberately SEO optimized this person's name
Right.
to have their mugshot.com profile like appear first. First of all, the owners of that website are in jail. So that's great. Or at least they've been like indicted. Because like it's a horrible thing to do. And
Hmm.
using search engines to harass people is a really like common thing. So this
Yeah.
is going to be kind of squarely targeting that by making it so people who are victims of this can shut it down and make it so that it's
Yeah.
not as easily searchable. Prior to this, there wasn't really a good way to prevent companies from using search engines as blackmail against people who
Hmm.
maybe have a mugshot or maybe have like something else that would be undesirable. So I am so all about this. I really, really
Yeah.
do hope that they've explicitly said that you can't request things be taken down like news articles or things like that. Like
Right.
that stays. But like online people doxing you or whatever else, like that doesn't
Hmm.
need to stay like at the top. Nor do extortion sites that like try to compile public data in order to like shame or like try to get money from users who then won't have economic
Right.
opportunities until they pay this company. And a lot of the times they don't even actually take it down. So
Yeah.
yeah, super super interesting. And I am very very like excited to see how this rolls out. All right, so shed one tear for Cortana. I don't even know the name, sorry, the voice of Cortana because I don't use Microsoft like anything really. So,
Right.
so this is not much of a loss for me. But anybody who's gotten used to the sweet voice of Cortana is going to be disappointed as it is replaced in favor of having integrations like ChatGPT. So, yeah, this is going to be happening fairly soon. And like
Hmm.
Windows Copilot is slated to be the replacement for Cortana.
Yeah.
The idea here is that eventually it grows into a full-fledged AI like Copilot personal assistant that can like do all these things and has internet access and is fully integrated. So yeah, there you go. Like it seems like Microsoft is so eager to just like drop
Yeah.
their own stuff that hasn't been doing that well in favor of like some of these open AI projects. Um, for whatever reason, OpenAI just gives me like early Facebook like vibes, and like I just like like I don't know how that's going to work out for them, but we'll see how it happens. It seems like
Yeah.
OpenAI has like positioned themselves to be like right square in the pipeline of like tons of interesting data and like yeah, it seems like a pretty good arrangement for both of them because like I think that not a lot of people in our chat are fond of Cortana. James, in fact, has already shown Cortana the door. So this happened quite some time ago for our friend James.
Yeah, the
Um,
interesting thing is, it's not just in personal stuff. Microsoft is rolling out Copilot for their 365, so for their, I think it's just in private preview now, but that will very quickly be built into their professional offering too, their business offering. So that's a whole other can of worms from the business perspective, which is interesting. But
yeah.
that's a whole other discussion we could have for a long time, and the
So
dangers of that.
there is a dark champion lurking in the shadows that is a fan favorite, and I feel is likely if Zoomers are given jobs at Microsoft to make a return. Clippy, AI Clippy.
Yeah.
That's who we're rooting for. A villain at the time, but he's come back as one of the most recognizable and widely loved, if not actually used, like Microsoft creations. So if Microsoft wants to have like a sequel or a return
Hmm.
character or a reboot, as it were, then I think Clippy would probably be the one to carry that new brand.
Oh, what's this one? Nono and Bob. Wasn't there a Microsoft Bob? Maybe that's what they're referring to, or am I thinking of something else? But I swear there was something like Bob something was now really racking my brain.
Oh, I got you. This Microsoft
Yes,
Bob.
it did exist. I,
uh,
I wasn't having an AI hallucination.
yeah, Bob was criticized in the media and did not gain wide acceptance. Aw, I feel so bad for Bob. He looks like a nice guy. He seems happy. So good for him. It's more than I can say about most people. Um, all right. So next up, a boring story. Slackdown outage causing
Yeah.
connection errors, blurry images. We'll go over this quickly because I don't care about Slack because I don't use it because I don't work at one of those businesses anymore. The sound of Slack is so deeply tied to trauma for me that I just hearing about it being down just makes me think that some people probably relaxed for a little bit. Um, But yeah, been experiencing some issues, backup and working now. However, like, yeah, 2 hours after they acknowledged that systems were functioning normally, but
Mhm.
people were getting blurry images, not very
Hmm.
useful for them. Moving on. All right. So this is a little bit of an explanation of how, like, Google has been, I'm not going to say dropping the ball, but allowing
Hmm.
malware to get into their closed garden of their Play Store. So we've been talking about
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks, oh, like there was a malicious Play Store app that did this, that, and whatever. But how did that actually get there? Like, Google's does static code analysis, and they're supposed to be
Hmm.
able to be so good at that. So, sorry, my friend who's a Google employee is in the other room, so I just hope you can hear me. But anyway, so yeah, they're so good at this. So
Hmm.
exactly what's happening here? Well, this is a process called versioning, where the initial application is able to be basically whitelisted because it's not doing anything malicious, and then
Hmm.
it'll push a version or update itself using code that circumvents the static analysis check. So this is stuff that basically comes in after the application starts up and
Hmm.
like runs in a way that isn't able to be analyzed through Google Play's security controls.
Right.
So here is one of my submissions for most confusing graph of the week. Let's go through it. So we have the attacker, all right,
Hmm.
and then we have a Google Play Store app. All right, so we're in business. So we're moving this way and we're moving this way, and then we get the Google screening, and it's like hooray, and then it goes into the workspace marketplace, and then boom, people are able to download it. So this is, I guess, the victim. Sure, it's not labeled, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm assuming. So they go ahead and download and update the application, and then the attacker on their infrastructure pushes a malicious patch, which gets
Hmm.
integrated into the application and starts running. So at that point, like, this app has not been malicious the entire time it's getting pushed
Right.
through the Play Store. It's only through an update mechanism, which, by the way, this is forbidden, so it's not supposed to happen. They're not supposed to do this, but it is possible to do this. The
Hmm.
attacker will then push an update that makes the application malicious after. So what does that mean? Well, if you are a paranoid person that's going through the APK file and like trying to find, like, stuff, you're not going to find anything because it's going to be an update that comes later that has the malicious code. And this is called, like, in hacking terms, this is like a stager. It's something that
Hmm.
is staging an attack. It's maybe like open to being updated this way or vulnerable to being like abused in a way that makes it so the attacker can end up making a like malicious application when there was in fact none to start with. And also, hello, Taekwondo Gong, you're early today. Um, but yeah, so that is how, in general, some of these seemingly benign applications become
Hmm.
malicious after already being added to the official Android App Store. We've seen this very often, and again, we report on this almost every week, like a new
Yeah.
type of malicious application being taken down. Well, this is exactly how it happens. All right, next up, Kilian, are you interested in extended warranty for your vehicle?
I am, and I really wish someone would reach out to me about it. And
Well, well, dang. If only the 5 billion spam calls hadn't been wasted on everyone else. So
yeah, right.
this is a pretty short story. These people who were banned from actually like participating in placing
Hmm.
in any sort of telecommunication business. They were
Right.
banned by the state of Texas and like the FCC. They just did it again.
Right.
So these people were just crazy for robocalls. They were addicted to robocalling. They could not stop. Um, so Roy M. Cox and Aaron Michael Jones were the people behind this operation,
Hmm.
both banned from telemarketing by the FCC in Texas. Despite the lifetime ban, they continued unabated, and
Hmm.
they actually had the FCC step in and order telecommunications companies to block all calls and all communications by these entities. That caused
Interesting.
a 99% reduction in the pure volume of these calls that were going out. So if you notice an abrupt stopping of that, it's because of this enforcement action. So after being cut off from their technology, these companies weren't able to be as effective, and it looks like they now owe $300 million. I sure wonder if they will pay. My thought: no, no,
Mm.
they won't. All right, next up, Spotify's down. Music searches page and signups not working. This is a short update because I believe it is already fixed.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was just down earlier this week. Seems as though it has now been resolved, but we shall see.
Yeah, I don't recall them saying what the problem was either, but I think it was down and then it was back up. But I don't know. DDoS maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, if you've got Spotify and if it's working, please let me know. All right, next up, just kind of look into the ways that hacktivist groups are funding their operations. It
Hmm.
basically goes on to say that there's no real difference between
Right.
hack groups and like hacker groups in terms of the way that they pursue getting paid, mostly because donations just aren't cut it anymore. Sorry, were you going to say something, Killian?
No, no. I'm not surprised though. I think in some ways the hacktivist groups are a little bit more scary, at least to me personally, because they're ideologically driven as opposed to driven purely by profit. At least you kind of know what to anticipate in that sense. Um, but it scares me again a little bit more because at least I can rationalize people doing things for money.
Yeah. Oh, and we have an update on the last story. Spotify works. Thanks,
All
Spotify.
right.
Thanks, name. As of 20 minutes ago. So this is kind of so killing. You're right. Like, what's interesting
Mm,
about hacktivist groups is they're not always motivated by money, but like any organization,
right.
they need money and resources to be effective. So a
Hmm.
lot of the time they'll take donations, but more recently they're just adopting the same tactics that cyber criminals have
Hmm.
already popularized because there's a market for it. So as cyber criminals have created a market for these types of services, these groups that traditionally have relied on donations have been switching over and starting to provide
Hmm.
value, like because people want some value for their hacking now, for their hacking
Sure.
dollars. So one example is like subscription only Telegram channels where like they will live stream attacks or like dump
Hmm.
data. So basically, you get access to like a stream of hacked information for a small fee. This entices a lot of people, cybercrime groups, or like anybody that has a way of monetizing that data.
Hmm.
So a lot of these groups that were previously a little bit less predictable are now just adopting relatively like
Right.
common cybercrime tactics in order to make sure they get paid and they have the infrastructure. For example, like some of these groups are developing giant botnets for attacking like
Hmm.
political targets, but in their downtime, they're starting to rent these botnets out for people who
Right.
want to use them just to make money off the infrastructure and be able to have operational funds for other stuff. Who would donate to a hacktivist? You would be surprised. There are a lot of people who are sympathetic, and anytime that a hacktivist group scores a really notable attack, it incentivizes the people who admire them to make donations. So
Hmm.
that's why like hacktivist groups like will deface like a major website or like do something that like states their cause or embarrasses like a target. People who hate that target are going to donate to them because they see it as like vigilante justice, and like some people feel strongly enough that they want to fund that sort of thing. So as these groups have taken Bitcoin, like it's been a way for people to vent their frustrations to donate to a group, that is
Right.
like working to do things that they support. So because these are activist groups effectively, like there's going to be people who agree with them. They might be on the fringes, but even some of the most heinous like far right groups that have researched um, work on donations. People who support their cause will send them Bitcoin, and some of the investigation techniques I've shown have been like tracking like violent extremist groups in Norway via their Bitcoin transactions. So being able to look at the ways that these groups make money and start to understand how they do that. Yeah, donations are the first thing, yes, but they're highly trackable and they're not very sustainable. If you can take the infrastructure you're already building and then make a little bit of extra money, it seems like that's the route that a lot of these groups are going. And again, I think that this is potentially because cyber criminal groups have made this such a marketplace that entering into the marketplace is easy. And once you have something to sell, like a Telegram group full of data
Hmm.
dumps, or like a I don't know, like access to like a botnet that people want access to, like that kind of thing can float your whole organization. It seems.
Yeah.
All right, next up, this is a US government contractor, Circo, disclosing a data breach. And of course, it is more Move It data transfer attacks. So I'm starting to feel old covering the Move It data transfer attack.
Hmm.
This is, as we've said, every week for the past 4-5 weeks, a huge breach that the attackers are struggling to go through.
Hmm.
So the Clop ransomware gang is one of the groups that moved in on this and just took an absolutely astonishing amount of data. They've been doing double exploitation attacks against virtually every major company that they were able
Hmm.
to exploit, and they've been slowly moving down the list of organizations that they have breached. So what this means is it is finally time for Circo on that list, and this is potentially really bad because they manage like healthcare benefits and other personal information for some pretty high-profile agencies, like the Department of Homeland Security, the Justice and State Department, of U.S. intelligence agencies, multiple U.S. Armed Forces branches, and then also for high-profile commercial customers.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, this is a lot of data, and the data is quite juicy. It is people's social security numbers, their addresses, a lot of stuff that probably
Yeah.
should not be out there. But of course, that makes the data ripe for ransomware attacks. So in this case, it seems again like it's a double exploitation attack, and looks like Klopp is projected to amass between 75 to $100 million
Wow.
after the payments to their ransomware demands. That is an astonishingly profitable ransomware attack. So this one
Boy.
vulnerability in this extremely popular piece of software that was just across all these different industries, that sort of downstream attack or like kind of like supply chain attack is
Hmm.
exactly how these ransomware groups are just having huge paydays. Most of the time, these groups will work with like affiliates and they'll have like affiliates poking around and then using their
Hmm.
software to like break into something and then like then getting a share of that. But this is a different model where if they're able to manage these attacks themselves, they can just take the whole pie. And
Yep.
that is really, really interesting to me. So, all right, next story. So the FBI, CISA, and NSA were revealing the top exploited vulnerabilities of 2022. Um, yeah, and I think let's this is the list right here. Kind of technical, but there's a lot of zero-day vulnerabilities that were specifically related, or rather that were old, that were like
Yeah.
known vulnerabilities that were like previously patched, but there were still systems connected to the internet that were vulnerable. So what this kind of showed was that like threat actors were actually not focusing on like emerging like zero-day vulnerabilities. They were focusing on old stuff that was still connected to the internet
Yep.
that was easy to go after. So you can see Log4Shell is like pretty high up on that list. That was like a devastating vulnerability.
Yeah. Oh
Like that
yeah. Oh yeah.
required lots of patching, lots of like frantic updates, and it was extremely exploitable. So the fact that this had such a long tail and in 2022 was still like one of the top exploited vulnerabilities, like this is just what attackers are doing at this point. Like they're taking the low hanging fruit and they're going after it because it's just frankly so easy for them to go after things that are well known. There's great proof of concept, it's scalable, it's
Hmm.
easy, rather than going after things that have just come out and then they're competing with like a bunch of intelligence agencies and like whoever else is racing to
Right.
like do this stuff.
Yeah. Proxy Shell surprised me to be on this list because that was what 2021 maybe when that came
2021.
out. That was a long. I mean, not that long ago, but it feels like ages.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It looks like Eternal Blue is not on this, or at least it isn't. It isn't listed on it. But yeah, no, that would be truly something to still see Eternal Blue showing up on this. If one of these is actually Eternal Blue, then please let me know because I don't remember it by its CVE. But please, that's not it. Okay, let's go on to the next one. All right, so this is Russian hackers targeting government organizations in a Microsoft Teams
Hmm.
phishing attack. This was a group that is linked to Russia's foreign intelligence services, and these are technical support themed domains that are trying to send tech support lures. So it's basically
Hmm.
trying to make people think that there's some sort of issue or some sort of like problem with their system where they need to go to an onmicrosoft.com domain, which is
Right.
legitimate and makes people feel like they are going to a legit domain. I first saw this a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is a new thing that Microsoft is doing, and mine was legitimate, but that's exactly why people are getting confused by this because people use this all the time.
Right.
So once getting the link, it brought them to a technical support lure that would try to get them to send their MFA prompt. So they're trying to get around like recently enforced like MFA policies
Yeah.
in order to get into organizations that definitely would have enabled this. So this attack is mostly notable because it assumes MFA is enabled and it uses legitimate on Microsoft.com domains. That is why some of these might not have been filtered, and some of them might have actually appeared quite trustworthy and difficult for people to realize they were a phishing attack.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't read this one part. I forgot that the U.S. Navy has a red team, but I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Microsoft.
so
I was gonna say Microsoft's gotten some pretty bad press lately. I don't think we're covering it in this stream, but did you read? I want to say a U.S. senator and a couple people have been kind of piling on them for their lack of security candor lately with some stuff. Because I believe this goes into the fact that they didn't jump to fix this particular thing from the Navy Red Team. They're like, we'll get to it.
yeah, I've heard in a couple of stories that we've covered in the last couple of weeks, like that Microsoft is declining to fix certain things because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is basically phishing or social engineering. It's not like an actual technical
Mhm.
problem. It's like this relies on social engineering to work. It's like, yeah, it
Right.
does, and it's quite effective. So yeah, this was previously reported, and we have heard that yeah, Microsoft hasn't always been the best about taking these super seriously if it's not like a strict technical
Right.
strict technical bug.
Yeah.
All right, next up, this is an interesting attack on high profile and valuable Facebook accounts. So this was a Salesforce zero-day vulnerability that allowed attackers to target these Facebook accounts by sending via Salesforce's sender verification
Mhm.
safeguards. So the kind of high level of this, and I think, oh, wait, this is, no, don't worry. There's another graph that is highly confusing this week that I'm really excited
Is it
for.
down at the bottom? Because I think keep going because there it is.
Ooh,
It is this one because
ooh.
I was really interested in this when I read the article.
Okay, yeah. So let's see if we can puzzle out what's going on from this contextless attack chain. All right, so legit companies in Salesforce ecosystem. All right, all right, all right. So then the hacker goes in and uses the STMP mass mailer. All right, and it sends out an action required email to a
Mhm.
Facebook account, to a Facebook app. It's going to go to glukagames.com, and then it's going to hijack their account. Okay, well,
Yeah.
that seems pretty straightforward. But yeah, so that's the basic thing here is Salesforce was able to be abused as the mailer of these phishing attacks, and that was
Right.
able to bypass the normal verification that would have happened. And yeah, so that's about it. It was going after Facebook accounts. It seemed highly targeted, and the ability to use this like upstream provider of verification
Yeah.
where it's just like, okay, things coming from Salesforce are legit, it's fine. That is really the key piece of this attack that allowed it to evade automated detection. I
Yeah. It was
think
pretty
there's an
cool.
even worse one. There's an even worse one than this, but thank you for calling this one out, Kilian, because this is indeed a confusing graph. Not as bad as some of the ones I've seen.
No.
Oh, here we go. This is it. We found it.
Yep. This is
Welcome
the one.
everyone to the most confusing graph of the week. All right, so hackers are using new malware to breach air gap devices in Eastern Europe. This sounds like they've created some sort of like radio transfer technology, but no, it's
Right.
just USB. It's just malicious USB drives that are specifically addressing this use case. Now, how do you put information into an air gap system? Well, usually a USB drive or something like that. So
Mhm.
in order to start attacking these sorts of drives, we have observed like kind of interesting malware that has a first module, a second module, and a third module, each one dedicated to doing both profiling, secondary infection, and then finally data exfiltration. So
Before we get to
here
the
we go.
graph,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say the one thing I did find really interesting was in a cruel twist of fate, they use a legitimate McAfee executable with DLL hijacking or vulnerable to DLL hijacking. So I thought that was interesting way to approach it because it's using something that you would think would be hopefully secure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's really such a tried and true attack surface. Like the fact
Yep.
that allegedly like the NSA used this to go after like Iran's like nuclear like sub um
Right.
oh my god, nuclear program like that, centrifuges, that's what I was looking for. That is a pretty obvious like use case of this
Hmm.
working. And because like often people will say like, oh, the system's air gapped, is like, it's not really air gapped. Like And every time I say that, like I feel like I'm saying a joke, but it's actually almost always true. Like there's
Hmm.
always a reason why the system's not actually air gapped, or there's some reason it needs to be updated or accessed or whatever else. Systems that are air gapped are never actually air gapped, at least in my experience. So I'm not surprised that this would be the attack vector. All right, so on to the on. Okay, let's puzzle this one
I
out.
I love that. Like I see a 7, a 9, a 10, a 10.1, a 10.2, but I don't see like a 1 through 6. I guess. Oh no,
I
there's
don't.
6. I see 6. 1 through 5.
Where's one?
Yeah.
Where does one start? Okay, so
Yeah.
mother of God. All right, so we have I guess we start at like 4, 6. All right, so our hard-hatted friend opens a lure and goes through this danger box. And in the lure is a link file.
Mhm.
Somehow we skip step 7 and we're on to step 8. Oh no, 7. We open
Yeah.
the source file gets opened, drives contents, target host data and files. Okay, self delete with script. Okay, wait, now that happens after 8. Okay, so then it infects. We get a stealer. We get spyware, which then captures and steals screenshots, keystrokes, and Windows
Mhm.
titles, etc. That updates to the removable device, and then 10.1 deploy host specific payload. Okay, so it profiles it, and then
Mhm.
maybe like gets like a payload and like drops it. I'm sorry, but I hate this graphic. I'm so confused. But why is the guy wearing a hard hat? Oh, he's like an industrial worker, or like that's the
I
implication.
guess. I
Yeah.
don't
So
know.
a deeply confusing way of explaining this story. So yeah, so this was a stealthy attack. And follow the tactics, techniques, and procedures of DLL hijacking to load malicious payloads into memory and hide payloads in encrypted form and separate binary data
Mhm.
files. Very cool, interesting, and sophisticated. All right, next up, hot topic. This is something I did not think I would be talking about for basically ever. I thought we were done with hot topic, but no. So hot topic has been the victim of a credential stuffing attack. Kilian, what's a credential stuffing attack?
Basically, just using like credentials you found somewhere else to attack a different site. If you like password reuse, basically, um, it's more or less the short answer.
Um, okay, wow. Sorry, I really like this comment by James. Wait, where is it? There we go. Let's air gap the system. CEO, good idea. Just make sure I can log in from my phone. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like people will be like, yes, this system has to be air gapped, absolutely. But then they'll be like, but make sure that we can monitor it remotely if need be.
Mhm.
All right. So Hot Topic has basically reported that this credential stuffing attack appears to be from a source outside themselves, meaning like
Mhm.
somebody else leaked credentials. It could have been a third-party supplier, or it could be people who maybe there's a lot of overlap. Maybe like a community that the people who go to Hot Topic and reuse their passwords got breached. Like it's really not
Yeah.
totally known where the credentials came from, but it seems like yeah, it was a successful attack in terms of being able to pull down information like the full name, email address, order history, phone number, date of birth, shipping address, and last 4 digits of the saved payment card. Um,
As far as breaches go lately, this one is not the worst, I guess.
yeah, nobody's even getting free credit monitoring, which
Yeah.
is so it fails to make our segment "Who's getting free credit monitoring this week?" But yeah, so as far as credit, yeah, I mean, unless you've been buying some really weird stuff from Hot Topic, you don't want to be made public. Like this is pretty standard data breach stuff. Of course, your name, information, your shipping address, all that stuff is not ideal. So like having that information breached definitely sucks. But yeah, at least it's not
Mhm.
your social security number or like some of the stuff that's been breached in some of these these other breaches even this week. All right, so is an interesting one. AI is being trained for phishing, and we've already seen a little bit of this, but some people who are using like a retrained version of BART, I believe it's like Google, like one of
Yeah.
Google's like AIs that they made available. Um, this is purported to be able to write malicious code, create undetectable malware, find V bins, create phishing pages, create hacking tools, find group sites, markets, write scam pages, find leaks and vulnerabilities, learn to code slash hack, right? Find cardable sites, much more. So these are connected to the internet, and
Mhm.
some of these are also, Dark Bert, are available to academics based on relevant email addresses, but that also people could just pay $3 and oh, yeah, sorry. So this is people can pay $3 to get access to an email address from an academic institution. So
Mm.
this is yeah. So it's not that hard to get access to these sorts of maliciously trained bots, and I think that like there's
Mhm.
going to be probably like some pen testing like company that decides to off to
Mhm.
basically train a really mean version of this, like
Right.
the AI version of Metasploit, and they'd be like, all right,
Right.
here you go, like set this thing loose against your organization and like see how it does. So the fact that these are like internet connected, they can presumably do scans, they can like identify targets. Like that's really what's interesting here. But I
Right.
do see like anytime there's like a cybercrime opportunity, there's always like a parallel like business opportunity for organizations that
Right.
want to simulate that kind of attack. So if we are seeing criminals like using AI integration, we haven't really seen that before. I
Mhm.
want to see some attacks that like are documented to be like from these things before I really believe it. Like I'm just kind of hesitant based on the results I've had with some like 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 off the shelf like AI tools. Like I'm hesitant to believe that these are going to be really performative and that they're going to do
Right.
very well. But I'm open to see. Like we'll see how this goes. Like I want to hear about some documented attacks that were made by these things before I really like rank them as like a strong mental threat, because there are definitely some dumb things that probably would work that you would not have needed an AI to do. It's just like maybe it came up
Right.
with like a good phishing email or something.
But as we know, that I mean, so many of these things that we've seen are just a good phishing email to get in. It's just that social engineering aspect. But I believe it. I believe that this is going to be a pain for us. Um, and I think you're right. I'm waiting for the day when somebody creates the really nasty but like corporate version of this. Think about like Cobalt Strike, for example. That's in however many of these, and that's a legit um, part of a pen testing suite. It's just a matter of time.
This is an interesting comment on our last hot topic story, which is do like speculating, is it an insider threat, an outsider threat, or it's criminals like taking information that was maybe breached from an insider, or is it information that was maybe leaked somewhere else? Like that is kind of the interesting part of that story.
Right.
As of this, I think one thing that is interesting about this is the Google Lens integration. Being able to take an image and be like, "What is this?" Or like,
Right.
"How do I hack this?" Having Google Lens identify the exact. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it seems like a far fetched example, but I've started using Google Lens to identify components and other things that I'm not sure what
Hmm.
they are, because if it's a unique enough item, I've been able to take a circuit board that my friend sends me a picture of, take a look at it with Google Lens and identify the exact model of circuit board that
Hmm.
that is, what it's for, the technical manuals. So if an AI had internet access and Google Lens, then theoretically you could show it a picture of like a microcontroller. It could identify the
Right.
microcontroller and then look for ways of hacking it. So like
Yeah.
it does seem like a really interesting like AI chain. It's quite interesting to see like what criminals are doing. Oh, and one thing that Fight Me also mentioned is being able to train it on emails, especially if there's like leaked information or if there's like writing samples. Like
Hmm.
you can train an AI to write like someone with
Yeah.
enough samples, and that's something that I do all the time. I'll basically like take my own like null byte articles and I'll like use that as a basis for how I want it to write. And give it enough examples that it can basically write like me. So criminals using this to be able to write better phishing emails, that's definitely nothing new, and it makes a lot of sense. All right, next up, and we're getting oh yeah, we're basically at an hour, but like let's
Oh
let's
yeah.
finish these out.
Mhm.
So if you've got an old email address, and I just thought of like 10 of mine that I still
Yep.
have, Google is going to be deleting these. So if you have like an old and unused funny email address that you've been like sitting on since like 2006, like me, then it's going to be deleted. So there are some exceptions. There's going to be let's see, there's going to be anybody that has like a balance on their Google account. Um, oh my gosh, yeah, but with some exceptions, those accounts are going to be deleted. So you need to read or send an email, use Google Drive, download apps from the Play Store, use Google Search, or watching. Basically, they're like feed us data or get off our
Right.
platform. So yeah,
Yeah.
like this is supposedly to prevent misuse by threat actors being able to break into some of these older accounts that probably don't have MFA set up. Is a very lucrative way of doing that. And I have gotten a couple of my old accounts breached by just like random people that I think like either bought them online or something like that.
Hmm.
And my favorite thing is to just like allow them to use it for like a certain period of time and then just reset the password and then just like take it
Yeah.
back. That happened a couple of times to me on just like old accounts where it's like, who the hell is logging in from India? And then like, like a month or two later, I'd be like, okay, enough is enough. And I'd like reset the password because they just never changed
Right.
the reset email. And I just had like all this person's like official like work and school correspondence. And I was just like, who's hacked now?
Right.
But yeah, so that sort of like account, like old account, like reuse, like that was like I made that email address, no joke, in like 2005, and
Yeah.
like 10 years later or whatever, it was like broken into and then started being used as
Hmm.
someone's like primary email address. I don't know why they felt the need to use that one, but I've had that, and then I've had people also repeatedly register like Roblox accounts, like
Yeah.
on like my email address, and then I'm like, okay, well this is mine now.
Right.
So yeah, kind of interesting that these older accounts have been targets in attack. Shocking. If you throw
Yeah.
away a device that contains your Wi-Fi credentials, then someone could potentially obtain your Wi-Fi credentials. Who would have
Hmm.
thought? So if you
Right.
have an internet-connected printer, specifically a Canon protected printer, connected printer, then it is not doing anything to get rid of the network SSID and the password when you get rid of it. It seems like, like this is pretty common sense. IoT devices
Right.
are vulnerable to this as well, but it seems like it's so easy with Canon devices that they are issuing like a document to help users identify if the
Yeah.
data retention issue is going to impact them. It's going to also go through and tell you how to delete that data specifically because apparently it's not automatically deleted. And yeah, this is an issue. Like if you were just to get rid of this device, somebody could get free and open access to your Wi-Fi,
Hmm.
and it would be very difficult to know that they've done so. So, especially if you reuse this password anywhere, it is a really good idea to get rid of all of this before getting rid of any device. Alternatively, you can just shoot it. So that is in my area where I live. That is an acceptable alternative means of disposing of a printer. All right. So speaking of taking over Minecraft
There you
and
go.
other sorts of accounts, there is a bleeding pipe RCE that is impacting certain Minecraft mods that allow not only taking over the Minecraft server, but also users' devices that
Hmm.
are connected. So this is an incorrect use of deserialization that allows attackers to take over the Minecraft mod servers and then anybody that connects to them. This has been actively exploited in July, and yeah, that's pretty much it. As we all know, gamers are the most targeted of all. So yet another example of the persistent war on gamers. Be careful, keep your
Um,
Minecraft safe.
just James made a comment. Did I just hear you need to reset the Epson printers twice to remove your information? That's what Canon is saying. I don't know about Epson ones. Also, if it's the same thing, but yeah, if you have one of those, reset it twice. Looks like Canon's advice for their printers.
Yeah, yep. All right, so on to we're gonna speed run these last couple. So Israel's largest oil refinery offline after a distributed denial of service
Hmm.
attack. So, like, of all the types of attacks that a refinery could be hit by, a distributed denial of service attack is, I would say, one of the least bad, considering that the
Sure.
alternatives are like, ransomware or a data breach or something. So, in this case, it looks like their website has been cut off from the internet, but it's not entirely clear whether that would impact
Hmm.
any sort of,
Right.
like actual activity, like pumping oil or refining oil or whatever. Um, let's see. Yeah,
I
I
guess the
don't.
scary thing is the attackers claim that they had some level of visibility or access to the SCADA systems, though. Actually, I think it's right here is the screenshot. So keep going.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So it's saying. So they're claiming that they have access to some of the SCADA systems. That obviously would be a pretty big breach
Yeah.
if they were able to impact any of the systems on the inside. Um, Checkpoint spokesperson said none of these claims are true and reiterated the refinery's findings. It seems like right now the refinery is stating that this is just like smoke and mirrors, and they haven't
Mm-hmm.
detected any sort of like actual access to the inside. It's more of a external attack on
Mm-hmm.
what is effectively like marketing websites or like other like
Right.
external facing sites. All right, so Apple is now saying that its new API is going to limit user fingerprinting. So we
Mm-hmm.
discussed fingerprinting a little bit earlier by talking about how, for example, Android devices might not be able to look at the MAC addresses of devices on your Wi-Fi network anymore. And why would they care about that? Well,
Right.
this sort of fingerprinting is an end run around the way that apps have been restricted in tracking people. So if you're not able to look at the phone's identifiers, but you are able to look at the identifiers of devices on the same network, seems like that's a pretty good way of identifying people
Mm-hmm.
uniquely because the same types of devices are going to be on the same network, and it basically serves the same purpose. So
Yeah.
from now on, apps are going to be required to provide a reason for why they need these permissions. Anything that's been identified as a sensitive permission is going to need some sort of reason for doing it. I don't know
Right.
that they're going to have the time to go and check all these. That
Mm-hmm.
would be like when you create like regulatory red tape, like it not only annoys people, but it requires like new work in order to verify. So like
Mm-hmm.
who is going to sit through and read all these permissions? I do not know. We will see, because it seems like a boring and tedious job that maybe isn't going to be done so well. Like requiring people to provide a reason like just means that they have to lie.
Right.
So like unless someone's going to go through and like actively check that it is really required by the reason that they state, so many apps use these permissions that I feel like it's either going to be
Mm-hmm.
auto denied or auto approved.
Right.
Neither one is particularly ideal. All right, and last up, so this is more of a reflection on last week. We were talking about the
Mm-hmm.
ways that ransomware gangs who have been under increased pressure from people not paying have been adapting to this. So the big move has mostly been like switching to clear text websites and trying to put
Yeah.
pressure on the extortion part of the activity. So they're attempting to basically make it so it's easier for people to find these data breaches, and the two ways we've seen this done is both through an API that's been built to
Mm-hmm.
allow third-party websites to connect to and display information from data breaches, and then also like clear tech or clear websites that allow people to access data breaches, which are much more
Right.
vulnerable to being taken down, but end up being an easily searchable way for people to find the results of these data breaches, which increases the financial harm and makes it so that people are, I guess, like they feel like their data is more exposed rather than just having it
Right.
available to a select group of people on the dark net.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the news of the week, and there was quite a lot of it.
Oh
Thank you
boy.
to everybody for sticking through with us through that update. Next week, we are going to be doing the stream, I believe, from Black Hat, right, Kilian?
Yep. Looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Yeah, so definitely stop by the Ronas booth at Black Hat. We will both be there. If you're going to be at Black Hat too, we will be streaming live a Q&A session, and I believe then I will attempt to do another news episode on Friday, but it's going to be rough. It's going to be a very busy week. So yeah, so hopefully we will see some of you at the Verona's Black Hat booth, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little worried about it, but I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a lot of fun. As always, a big shout out to Varonis for sponsoring the stream and letting us do this every week. If you want to support the stream, make sure to go to varonis.com/Kody. That's Kody. And that'll let everyone know that you appreciate the stream, you like it, and you'll be able to check out some of our other free and interesting events that we're putting on. And yeah, so we'll see you guys at Black Hat, and I'll see you on next on yes on oh my gosh, on next Wednesday. All right. See you later, everyone.
Take care.